Hi, my name is Juarez, and this is my informative speech assignment. And this is my audience member. Nope, a little lower. There you go. Good evening. Imagine walking into a space where you don't have to explain yourself, a place where your identity isn't questioned and where you can exist freely, even just for a little while. For people in the LGBTQ plus community, spaces like these aren't just comforting, but they are necessary and essential for existence. Today, I want to talk about the importance of queer spaces, specifically coffee houses, cafes, and just generally places that serve coffee, and how they've served as sites of identity, resistance, and community. To begin, queer spaces have always existed in response to exclusion. When mainstream society creates barriers, marginalized groups create their own environments. According to scholar Francesca Stella, queer spaces are not just physical locations, but intentional environments where visibility and identity can be expressed safely. These spaces allow people to carve out visibility in a world that often pushes them into invisibility. Coffee houses in particular have played a unique role in this. They're accessible, social, and often casual, which makes them ideal spots for historically feminist, queer, punk individuals. Coffee houses in the 1970s and 80s were more than just places to get a drink. They became hubs for activism, discussion, and community building. As A.D. Ketchum explains, these spaces attempted to create inclusive environments across differences like race, gender, class. And even though they sometimes struggled to fully achieve that goal, they were effective most, if not all of the time. The study was done in 2020. The idea of more than four walls in reference to a building or a facility or coffee houses still applies today. A very recent 2026 article by Courtney Black highlights how modern community spaces are not defined just by their physical structure, but by the relationships and support systems formed inside them, whether that be barista and customer, customer to customer, making new friends, or inviting old friends to partake in activities inside these coffee houses. In other words, the value of the space comes from the people and the connections they create inside these facilities. In addition, queer spaces are especially important for youth and those in isolated areas. Marielle Gray's research on rural queer youth shows that when physical spaces are limited or small, public, semi-public environments, they become essential for identity formation and visibility. This study was done in 2009. Coffee houses, websites, and other social spaces become lifelines, offering both representation and connection. At the same time, it's super important to recognize that not all queer spaces are automatically inclusive. The idea that a space is for everyone can sometimes overlook issues of race, class, or disability, or any mixture of these that even cross over with queer identities. Ketchum points out that even spaces with progressive intentions can reproduce inequalities if they're not actively addressed. And this study was done in 2020. That means that creating a truly inclusive space requires ongoing effort and not just some good intentions, no matter how good those intentions may be. Despite these challenges, queer coffee houses and similar environments continue to hold cultural significance. An article from The Advocate in 2001 describes these spaces as places where community members gather, socialize, and express themselves freely, reinforcing both identity and belonging. They're not just social spaces, they are cultural anchors in a functional sort of sense. This was done by VSS. Ultimately, queer spaces matter because they give people the freedom to exist without that constant pressure or judgment or being perceived by people outside the queer community. They provide safety and they provide empowerment. They allow individuals to explore who they are without connecting with others who don't understand them. In conclusion, queer coffee houses are more than just places to drink coffee, though that may be their main function. They are spaces of visibility, resistance, community, and representation where you can build connections with other people, other like-minded people, and you can hear new opinions and hear about new identities. They don't disappear. They create something new, something meaningful, and something powerful. And maybe that's the most important takeaway. Thank you for listening.